Welcome to the People Podcast Music Awards. The helpful talking as investigators. We are more capable and practice evidence as well as asking questions. So hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the People First podcast. Today we're joined by Doctor Sian Williams, who used to be on the television a lot, who is also a doctor in science and psychology. Welcome, Sian.
Thank you very much, Luke. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Did you ever study any science and psychology?
Well, you know, Luke, when I went to school in the 1970s and early 80s, you were only allowed to study the humanities, which were English and history and those kind of subjects,
I
or
studied them.
you could study sciences. Did you? You studied them. I
Yeah.
wasn't allowed to study science though at the time, Luke. Were you able to study science as well?
Yeah, we were. They gave us everything.
Yeah, that sounds like the right approach. But when I was doing A levels, I had to either choose the humanity ones or the science. And I went with English and history and what was then geography, which wasn't considered a science. So I didn't get to do any sciences, and I really wanted to. So after I became a journalist, I waited quite a few years before I thought, you know what, I'd like to learn more science. And that's when I went back to university. So I studied English and history at university first, and then went to do my job in the BBC. And then eventually I thought, I'm going to go back to university.
That's great. Thank you. Why did you decide to specialize into psychology?
Well, that's a very good question. I was always interested in people and people's stories and how they got to where they were, and if they were sad or anxious or going through some difficult feelings, what we might do to be able to help them. But I didn't have any qualifications in psychology. I thought because I was working in journalism, and often when you're working in journalism, you talk to people who are in distress because news is difficult, isn't it? And the people who are caught up in big news events are often those who are really struggling. And I thought if I'm going to interview them and understand them a little bit more, I need to know what's going on in the brain. So that's when I decided to do a science master's in psychology. So I did it while I was still a newsreader. So most of my career, I've been a newsreader at the BBC. And it was wonderful. And I enjoyed going back to university. I was in my 40s, though, when I did that. So I had a lot to learn.
Did you have a dream of being on the TV when you started your career?
Oh, Jane, you know what? I didn't. I didn't think I would ever become a TV presenter when I started my career in journalism. My dad was a journalist, but he wrote for newspapers. When I went into journalism, I was a producer. So I wasn't sitting in front of the microphone like you are and Luke and Tom and Tyler. I wasn't doing that job of asking questions. I was the person putting the program together. And I really enjoyed that job. And I didn't really think about becoming a presenter. And then one day when I was helping out with screen tests, so that's when people have a go at being a presenter and see whether they're any good at it. I was filling in for somebody who had dropped out. So I was just standing in. And then after I'd done it, one of the bosses said, "Would you like a job as a presenter on the telly?" And I said, "No, not really. I like the job that I'm doing." So it took a while to be convinced that that was going to be a nice job for me, but I really loved it and I was very lucky to have it.
How many different job roles have you had, and what's been the best so far?
How many job roles have I had and what's been the best so far? Ooh, that's a complicated one for me. How many job roles have I had? Well, if I think about it, and I've not been asked that before, I've been a reporter, a presenter, a producer, um, a psychologist. I help people with trauma for a bit, and so that was so I'm up to five. There are probably quite a lot more. I think I also, at one stage, I made a lot of tea for people. So I was the tea maker. Um, I've been a volunteer. So we're up to seven. But I'll probably keep going, Jane. There's probably many more than that, I would imagine.
My question to you, Sian, is since you've worked with people with anxiety and trauma, what are the best ways to deal? What do you think the best ways to deal with anxiety are from your perspective?
Oh, that's another good question, Tyler. Thank you. I would say noticing when difficult thoughts and feelings and behaviors come up. Because sometimes when we feel difficult stuff, we want to run away from it or
Mm.
hide from it or stop it or just put it away and ignore it.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I've learned is that that just makes it bigger. So it's like a tug of war with a monster. It gets stronger if you try to fight with it, and it just pulls you over very easily. So I've noticed the best way to deal with it, and this is what research says as well, is if you're in a tug of war with a monster, you drop the rope and you say, "I see you. I know what you're trying to do. Thank you very much, but I'm choosing not to engage with you like this." So I think the first thing is to notice your anxiety. Where are you holding it in your body? What are the thoughts that are coming up in your head? What is it making you do? Is it making you stay places and things that you enjoy? And then thinking to yourself, is there another way I can deal with this anxiety that is a kinder way, that's a more compassionate way? I think we're very good at being self-critical to ourselves and saying, you shouldn't feel like this and you shouldn't feel like that and you shouldn't have this anxiety, rather than saying, we all have anxiety. Anxiety is safe. It's
Recording
just
in
sometimes
progress.
it gets it wrong. Sometimes it gets it wrong and it can be really, really loud. And then we say, "Thank you, anxiety. I hear what you, but I'm going to bring something else in to be kinder." And then to bring in some coping strategies. I'm sure you all have different coping strategies that you can use, which help when you're feeling under pressure. And that might be going outside and getting some fresh air, or it might be being with friends, or it might be being in a group setting like you are now and being amongst people that you feel really safe and supported with. Those sorts of things are really, really good at helping you deal with anxiety. Does that answer your question, Tyler?
Yes, thank you.
Great. We just had some members
Right.
of our office team join as an audience there. I'm sure you've noticed that, Sian. So they
I have. Hello, staff team.
How long did you present the UK's BBC breakfast programme?
Well, Now you're making me really think, how long did I present the BBC Breakfast programme for? I started at BBC Breakfast in 2001 and I finished in 2012. So that's 11 years. I was there for 11 years. And you know, Jane, it was one of the best jobs in the world because I was working with a team that I really loved. Bless you, Luke. I was working,
Sorry.
no, don't worry about it at all. Don't worry. I was working with a team that I really loved. And I was working with somebody called Bill Turnbull, who was sitting next to me, because you very often have two people sitting side by side if you've watched BBC Breakfast. So Bill Turnbull was sitting next to me, and then we had Carol Kirkwood, who did the weather, and it was a lovely, lovely team. And even though I was getting up at 3:30 every single morning and doing that for for over 10 years, it was a privilege. It was an absolute joy because I was working with people that I really loved and respected.
I prefer not to wake up and get up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think we all do.
Things more like this, you've got to be committed.
You have got to be committed, Luke, but I think if you're doing something you enjoy, sometimes you make other things fit. You think, well, I really love doing this, and in order to do this, I know I need to get up very early in the and at 6 now, and it's been ages. So I like that. So yeah, I think you've got to do what fits best for you, haven't you?
Who has been your biggest influence in journalism and why?
Biggest influence in journalism. I would say, am I allowed to have my dad, Tyler?
Yes.
Good. I would say it was my dad because he was a lovely man and really cared about the stories he worked on. And his job seemed really exciting as well. He worked on a lot of newspapers. So I I was inspired by him. But now I'm talking about it, I'm also thinking about my mum. My mum was a nurse and she worked as a nurse for 40 years and she was really caring. So she cared about the people she worked with in a different way. And I think the two of them together helped me understand that what I wanted to do was to be a storyteller and to hear people's stories. So I'm much more comfortable being the one behind the microphone asking you questions and hearing about your experience and what you love most and who inspires you most than I am talking about myself. But I think probably the two people that most inspired me to do what I did, both in psychology and journalism, would be my mum and dad.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have you ever written any books about your... Sorry. Have you ever written any advice books or manuals about your experiences?
I have. I've written two. My first book was called Rise, Surviving and Thriving After Trauma. And that came about because I was working a lot in the NHS health service. And but even before that, I had been seeing a lot of people who were very impacted by difficult experiences, really traumatic experiences. And I wanted to know how they recovered and whether they could recover well. And if they had recovered well, what advice they would give to us. So I was just recovering from a cancer experience myself at the time. So I was doing loads and loads of research into what works well so that you can recover well after something difficult. That was my first book.
Yeah.
And then my second book, which just came out last month, is called The Power of Anxiety: How to Ride the Worry Wave. And that is about living well with anxiety and all the coping strategies that we can use, all the tips and tools that we can use to help us do that well, to live in challenging, difficult times.
Have you got any suggestions about? Have you got any suggestions for anyone listening that wants to get into psychology or journalism?
That's a great question, Tom. I would say be curious and ask lots of questions and never think that you can't do it, because every single one of us has something that we can bring to either journalism or psychology. We can help tell other people's stories, sometimes by using our own experience and our own story. And I would say never give up. Always believe you can bring something different and unique and special, because you can. Keep going. Believe in yourself, because you'll get there.
What are your plans for the future?
Well, the immediate future. So I think in the next couple of hours, I need to take the dog out.
Well, that's a funny. That's a kind of normal everyday plan, innit? I've never had any pets. What?
Yeah, I've got a little black Labrador. Well, she's a cross between a lab and a cocker spaniel, and she's normally sitting in this room that I'm sitting in at the moment on the sofa. But I knew that if I was talking to you, she'd start jumping up and, telling me that I need to grab the lead and we need to head out for a walk. So that's little Molly. So I will be taking Molly out for a walk. And then at the weekend, we're going to a book festival where I'm going to be talking about my book. And I'm also working in the NHS. So there'll be more people to talk to and hopefully try to help. So that's my plan. I never look too far beyond, Tom. I never have a big 5-year plan or 10-year plan. I just think, what's going to be interesting now and in the next week or in the next couple of months?
Best idea, to be honest.
And if it seems, yeah, it's the best idea, isn't it?
Just take it as it comes, really, I find.
Exactly.
My question is, this question's taken from earlier when you spoke a little bit about a true powerhouse in journalism who was Bill Turnbull. What was it like working with him?
Yes. Oh, he was really funny, Tyler. Do you remember watching him on the telly?
I remember him on when he went to Good Morning Britain with Susanna Reid, and yeah, I bet you had some good banter.
We had some good banter, but you know what? It was built on friendship and respect and trust and confidence in one another. So I first met Bill in 1991. I was a producer and he was a reporter in America, and we were going to do a program on Bill Clinton, who became the US president. It was the first time anyone had heard about him. So this is before he sort of ran the race for president. So me and Bill were doing a program together, and that was the first time we met. And I fainted. The very first time I met him, I fainted. And he had to take me to the emergency department of the local hospital and wait with me for 24 hours until I came to.
Why? What? Sorry to interrupt, but
No.
why would that give you such a horrible fright?
I know. It wasn't, I don't think it was seeing Bill Turnbull that gave me the horrible fright. But he would laugh at that as well, Luke. He'd find that funny. I think it was just I'd been on a very long flight, to America.
Tiredness.
It was tiredness. Exactly. It was tiredness. It was jet lag. It was hadn't eaten properly. It was all those things. And yes, and as we flew back on the plane, he said to me, "I'd love to work with you again, but don't ever do that on a jet." So, and then we got the chance to work together a little later in our careers. And as I say, it was a partnership based on friendship and fun and trust and respect. And we were lucky to work with one another. And it's so sad he's no longer here.
Yeah.
Because
Very.
yeah, very sad.
I don't when we lose some people, those who we know, not personally, but even just, who we admire. I think it's very, very sad. Very sad.
It's really sad, Luke. And I think there is this phrase that it's better to have loved and lost than
Not
never
loved
to
at
have
all.
loved before. Yeah.
Oh, it's so. That's why it's important that we remember those people as they were.
Absolutely. And we keep talking about them and bringing them to life again in a
Bringing
way in
them
our
back
memories.
in memorable ways.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
true. We do, don't we? We really do. So thank you for reminding me of him.
That's all the time that we have for today. Many thanks again to Sian for coming to speak to us. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we end the show?
Can I just say what an absolute delight it has been being here, being interviewed by you. I've really, really enjoyed my time with you. So thank you so much for asking. It's been an honor to be asked and a privilege to be with you for the last half an hour. Thank you, Luke, Jane, Tom, Tyler. I've really enjoyed myself.
It's been a lovely opportunity, and we always enjoy our guest interviews, and you, of course, would always be welcome for a second one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Right, should we all say thank you and goodbye then?
Thank you.
Thank
Goodbye.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Bye.
You too.
Thank you for listening to this episode for the PKC podcast. Come on, if you went to listen to our minute show all about the social affect people with learning disabilities, you can ask before the People's Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or you can visit our website peoplefirstqc.com to keep up to date with our podcast. Follow us on Facebook, X and Instagram by searching for the People First Podcast.